Hello guys, welcome to EduDextro. I am Mohammed Irfan. In this video, we are going to do the class 11 chapter biological classification, and as you all know, this is the second video for this chapter. So without any delay, let's go into the academics. So the next kingdom is kingdom Protista. All the single-celled eukaryotes are placed under Protista, but the boundaries of this kingdom are not well defined. What may be a photosynthetic protestant to one biologist may be a plant to another. So, in this book, they have included chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, euglenoids, slime molds, and protozoans under Protista. Now, question can be asked from here that members of Protista are primarily aquatic. They are primarily aquatic. This kingdom forms a link with the others dealing with plants, animals, and fungi. Being eukaryotes, the Protestant cell body contains a well-defined nucleus, right? This is well-known fact that eukaryotes have a well-defined nucleus and they also have other membrane-bound organelles. The motile ones will have flagella or cilia. So these both are structures for motility. The protists reproduce asexually and sexually by process involving cell fusion and zygote formation. Okay. Now chrysophytes are the first classification under Protista. Now chrysophytes, the word chryso means gold. Chryso means gold. Okay. This group includes diatoms and golden algae or desmids. Golden, golden. From that we have derived the name chrysophytes. And from diatoms you would have related it with something two and two atoms, right? Something like two with two atoms you would have related it, and we'll do that in detail under this itself. Something two and atoms. So from that you can relate something. So they are found in fresh water as well as in marine environments. Not that they are just seen in fresh water, they are also seen in marine environments. They are microscopic and they float passively in water currents in the form of planktons. Okay, they float in water currents in the form of planktons. Now, most of them are photosynthetic. Okay, in diatoms, the cell walls form two thin overlapping shells which fit together as in a soap box. Now I think you can relate what is diatoms by thinking of what is soap box. There are two cell walls which form thin overlapping shells and they fit together in the shape of a soap box. The walls are embedded with silica and thus the walls are indestructible. Okay, due to silica they are indestructible and they are very hard. Thus, the diatoms have left behind large amounts of cell wall deposits in their habitat, and this accumulation over billions of years is referred to as diatomaceous earth. So, these shells which have been deposited over billions of years is called diatomaceous earth. These being gritty, this soil is used for polishing, filtration of oils and syrups. Okay, so it's very useful. That's why they depend on diatomaceous earth for these processes. Diatoms are the chief producers in the ocean. So question can come from here: who are the chief producers in the ocean? It is diatoms. Okay, next classification is dinoflagellates. Dinoflagellates, these organisms are mostly marine and photosynthetic. They appear yellow, green, brown, blue, or red, of course, depending on what pigments they'll have, right? The cell wall has stiff cellulosic plates on the outer surface. This is a unique characteristic for dinoflagellates that they have stiff cellulosic plates. Now most of them have two flagella. So now I think you can relate that DI or di stands for two. Just a second. Yes, two stands for di and flagellate stands for flagella. There are two flagellas such that one lies longitudinally and the other lies transversely in a furrow between the wall plates. Okay, so this is one of the flagella, right? This is one of the flagella. So like this, there are two flagellas. One is going transversely and one is running longitudinally between the wall plates. Very often, the red dinoflagellates, for example, the goniologs, they undergo such a rapid multiplication that if you see the seawater, it will be basically a red water. It appears red, and that's why it's called red tides. Now, when such a large number of dinoflagellates like goniologs, when they are abundant in the ocean, they will release some toxins which may even kill other marine animals such as fishes. Okay, so goniologs, red tides, dinoflagellates, two flagella, stiff cellulosic plate, all these come under dinoflagellates. Next, we have euglenoids, which is another classification of Protista. Majority of them are fresh water. Now, this is important. They are fresh water found in stagnant water. Question can be asked, which of these are seen in stagnant water? So this is how questions are asked in NEET. Instead of a cell wall, they have a structure called pellicle, which is nothing else but a protein-rich layer. Okay, pellicle, stagnant water, and this makes their body flexible. This gives it flexibility, unlike a cell wall, which won't give much of flexibility, right? And yes, they have two flagella. One is short and the other one is long. Though they are photosynthetic in the presence of sunlight, they may become heterotrophs when they are deprived of sunlight. And when they are heterotrophic, of course, they will be predating on other small organisms. And one of the interesting facts over here is that they have some pigments which are identical to those present in the higher plants. So example is Euglena. So over here we have two diagrams. Yes, this is dinoflagellates and this is Euglena. And yes, you can see one short flagella and another one is the long flagella. So there are two flagellas even for euglenoids, one short and one long. Next we have slime molds. This is also a classification of Protista. Slime molds are saprophytic protists. The body moves along decaying twigs. Body moves along. Body moves along decaying twigs. Such a sophisticated mechanism within slime molds that they can detect the presence of their food like decaying twigs and they move accordingly where these decaying twigs are present. There have been a lot of experiments in fact done for these slime molds as well, wherein the scientists have observed that these molds move towards their food. They move towards the decaying twigs and leaves, engulfing the organic material. Under suitable conditions, they form an aggregation called plasmodium, which may grow and spread over several feet. During unfavorable conditions, the plasmodium differentiates and forms fruiting bodies which bears spores at their tips. The spores possess true walls, okay, and they are extremely resistant and they survive for many years, even under adverse conditions. Now the spores are dispersed by air currents. So over here, these are all the points under slime molds and this is a typical slime mold. Okay. Diagrams can also be asked for identification, right? Next we have protozoans, which are again under Protista itself. Now all the protozoans are heterotrophs. There are no autotrophic protozoans, all are heterotrophs and they live as predators or as parasites. Now these are believed to be the primitive relatives of animal. From here, this is a important point that these are believed to be primitive relatives of animals, and yes, there are four major groups even under protozoans. Okay, that is amoeboid, flagellated, ciliated, and sporozoans. That also we'll see it in detail right now. Right. So firstly, we have amoeboid protozoans. The name itself has amoeba. Right. So these organisms live in fresh water, seawater, moist soil. They move and capture their prey by putting out pseudopodia. These all are lower grade stuff, right? False feet. And these are seen in amoeba, right? The marine forms have silica shells on their surface. This is an important point. And some of them, such as entamoeba, are parasites. Entamoeba is basically a parasite in the small intestine, right? And I'll tell you later in my later lectures what exactly means ENT. You'll learn it basically after reading 3 chapters from NCERT. You will understand what is ENT in entamoeba. Next is flagellated protozoans, and the members of this group are either free living or parasitic, and they have flagella, right? Name itself is telling that they have flagella. Now the parasitic forms cause diseases such as sleeping sickness. Example, trypanosoma. Trypanosoma causes sleeping sickness and it is transmitted through houseflies. Okay, right. Now, ciliated protozoans are another class of protozoans. These are aquatic, actively moving organisms, and because of the presence of thousands of cilia, they are having this motility. Now, they have a cavity called gullet that opens to the outside of the cell surface. Okay, so this is basically a mouth-like structure present in the structure of the paramecium. If you see here, this is the gullet. This region is the gullet. Okay, this is called the gullet, and from here, the movement of cilia causes water laden with food to be stirred into the gullet. An example is paramecium. Right, this is very common example, paramecium, and this is the gullet, and the cilia will basically direct all the food and water inside the gullet. Next we have sporozoans. Okay, if you have already read this chapter called Human Health and Disease, then you would be knowing what is sporozoans. Right? These are organisms that have an infectious spore-like stage in their life cycle. And the most common one and most notorious one is Plasmodium. And this we'll be studying under malaria in the chapter Human Health and Disease. And this is having a staggering effect on human population. Okay, and this is a malarial parasite. Plasmodium is the malarial parasite and it is a sporozoan. Okay, next we have kingdom fungi, the most important kingdom of this chapter. A lot of questions are asked from this part, so we'll do that in detail as well. Kingdom fungi constitutes a unique kingdom of heterotrophic organisms. They show a great diversity in morphology and habitat. Okay. Now we are very commonly known to these fungi like the fungi on moist bread, the fungi on rotten fruits, the mushroom, right? Mushroom is also fungi. We have learnt in lower classes, and even the toadstools are also fungi. The white spots seen on mustard leaves are due to a parasitic fungus. Some unicellular fungi like yeast are used to make bread and beer, right? And other fungi also cause diseases in plants and animals. Now, wheat rust is caused by a fungi called Puccinia, okay, and that is an important example. We'll see Puccinia as an important example under fungi once more. Some are the source of antibiotics, as we know, penicillium. And fungi are cosmopolitan and they occur in air, water, soil, and on animals and plants. Cosmopolitan means they are seen in all the habitats, not just that they are restricted to one habitat. They prefer to grow in warm and humid places, right? That is why we keep food in refrigerator to provide a cold environment so that these microorganisms do not grow. With the exception of yeasts, which are unicellular, most of the fungi are filamentous. Their body consists of a long, slender, thread-like structure called hyphae. Okay, a long, slender, filamentous-like structure called hyphae, and a network of hyphae is called mycelium. Okay, a network of hyphae is called a mycelium. Some hyphae are basically continuous tubes with multinucleated cytoplasm. So basically there are no constrictions within the hyphae. There are no separations between individual cells and thus they are a multinucleated cytoplasm, and such hyphae are called cenocytic hyphae. Okay, these are called cenocytic hyphae. The ones which have septae or cross walls in their hyphae are normal hyphae. Okay, but when these septae are not seen, they are called the cenocytic hyphae. As we know, the cell wall is composed of chitin and polysaccharides in the case of fungi. Now, most fungi are heterotrophic and absorb soluble organic matter from dead substances, and hence they are called the saprophytes. And those that depend on living plants and animals are called the parasites. So what is the difference? Parasites depend on living plants and animals, while saprophytes depend on dead substances. They can also live as symbionts, okay, in the form of lichens with algae and with roots of higher plants as mycorrhiza. Okay, reproduction in fungi can take place by vegetative means, by fragmentation, fission, budding, and asexual reproduction is by spores. Reproduction in fungi, right? Yes, asexual reproduction is by spores. And these spores are called conidia, sporangiospores, and zoospores. Okay, and for this, I have made a great trick for this region, so you can really go and watch that video. I'll be uploading it soon. So, sexual reproduction is by oospores, ascospores, and basidiospores. So, asexual reproduction is by zoospores, sporangiospores, and conidia, while sexual reproduction is by oospores, basidiospores, and ascospores. Now, the various spores are produced in distinct structures called fruiting bodies. Now, the sexual reproduction is quite unique in fungi. They basically have three steps, that is plasmogamy, karyogamy, okay, and meiosis. So what exactly is that? So fusion of two cells, fusion of the protoplasms between two motile or non-motile gametes is called plasmogamy. Gamy means coming together and plasmo means protoplasms, right? And when the two nuclei fuse, it's called karyogamy. Karyo means nucleus, right? Eukaryotes, prokaryotes, karyogamy. So karyogamy is a fusion of two nuclei. Then after this there is a meiosis in the zygote which results in the haploid spores. Okay. When a fungus reproduces sexually, two haploid hyphae of compatible mating types come together and fuse. So it's the hyphae which is fusing. In some fungi, in the fusion of two haploid cells, it will immediately result in diploid cells called, right, they have a 2n ploidy. However, in other fungi like Ascomycetes and Basidiomycetes. Now, I'll explain what is Ascomycetes and Basidiomycetes. It's basically a classification of kingdom fungi. In those groups, there is a intervening dikaryotic stage, which is basically N plus N. So what exactly happens is that if this is your cell, there will be two nucleus, right? And this is called a N plus N ploidy. But a 2N is basically one nucleus of 2N ploidy. So this is the dikaryon stage. So there is a intervening condition, basically a two nuclei per cell, and this is called dikaryon. This condition is called a dikaryon, and this phase is called the dikaryo phase of the fungus. Now later the parental nuclei will fuse, of course they have to fuse, and the cells become diploid, and the fungi form fruiting bodies in which reduction division will occur. So these groups will form the fruiting bodies after the fusion of the two nuclei, and over there the reduction division occurs, and this will form the haploid spores. Okay, and this is seen in Ascomycetes and Basidiomycetes. The morphology of the mycelium, the mode of spore formation, and fruiting bodies are the major topics based on which we will be dividing fungi into various classes. Okay, so this is the first classification, that is Phycomycetes. Phycomycetes members are found in aquatic habitats and on decaying wood, in moist and damp places, okay, or as obligate parasites on plants. They are found in decaying wood and in moist and damp places. Okay, the mycelium is aseptate and cenocytic. Okay, there is a cenocytic hyphae. Basically, there are no septum, no divisions between the cells, and it is a multinucleated hyphae, that is, it is a cenocytic hyphae. The asexual reproduction takes place by zoospores, which are motile, or by aplanospores, which are non-motile. These spores are endogenously produced in the sporangium. Okay, they are produced endogenously within the sporangium. A zygospore is formed by fusion of two gametes. These gametes are similar in morphology and it's called isogamous. When it's dissimilar, it is called anisogamous or oogamous. So isogamous is basically when both the male and female gamete are of same shape and structure, while anisogamy or oogamy means when both are of different morphology. When one is big, one is small. In such cases, we call it as anisogamy. Okay, so the examples are Mucor rhizopus, which is basically the bread mold, and also Albugo, which is a parasitic fungi on mustard. Next we have the Ascomycetes. This is another class, and these are called sac fungi. How to remember? Just put this S over here, it will become Saccomycetes. Okay, it's not Saccomycetes, it is Ascomycetes. But yes, you can remember that this is the sac fungi. And yes, this Phycomycetes is also called the weed fungi. Uh, just a second. Yes, the Phycomycetes are also called the weed fungi, while the Ascomycetes are called the sac fungi. The Ascomycetes are mostly multicellular. Okay, and for example, you have the penicillium, which is multicellular, and rarely they also have unicellular fungi like yeast, right? Yeast is Saccharomyces, and they are saprophytic decomposers, parasitic, or coprophilous. Coprophilous means they grow on dung. So this is a unique term from Ascomycetes class, that Ascomycetes are the only types of fungi which are coprophilous. That is, basically they grow on dung. The mycelium is branched and septate. So cenocytic hyphae is only seen in Phycomycetes. Okay, it is not seen in any other classes. And now from Ascomycetes, the hyphae is the mycelium is cenocytic. The asexual spores are conidia, which is produced exogenously on the special mycelium called the conidiophores. So these conidia are produced exogenously on a special mycelium called the conidiophores. Now these conidia, when they germinate, they'll produce another mycelium. The sexual spores are ascospores, which are produced endogenously in asci, which are basically sac-like structures, and the singular is ascus. So ascospores are produced endogenously in asci, while the conidiospores are produced exogenously on the while the conidia is produced exogenously on the conidiophores. These asci are arranged in different types of fruiting bodies. We have already done that, right? Basidiomycetes and Ascomycetes will form the fruiting bodies, right? And these fruiting bodies are called the ascocarps. Carp means fruit. As we all know, carp means fruit, right? Parthenocarpi, mesocarp, endocarp. So carp means fruit. Some examples are Aspergillus claviceps neurospora, right? And Neurospora is used extensively in biochemical and genetic work. This is such a type of fungi that it is useful in biochemical and genetic work. And there are also edible members like morels and truffles, which can be edible. We eat those fungi. Okay. So this is all for Ascomycetes, and we have already done Phycomycetes. And yes, guys, for these examples, I will be posting a separate video for tricks, because a lot of questions are usually asked from examples of these classes as well. So I will be posting a video for the examples of these classes of fungi as well. Okay. Next, we have Basidiomycetes. Basidiomycetes basically means club fungi. Okay, club fungi. These club fungi commonly grow um, as mushrooms, bracket fungi, or puffballs. Okay, they grow in soil, on logs and tree stumps, and in living plant bodies as parasites. And yes, parasites are rusts and smuts. Okay, plant parasites are mostly fungi only, and yes, these are the most common plant diseases as well, rust and smuts, right? So the mycelium, as we know, it is branched and septate. The asexual spores are generally not found, but vegetatively they will be reproducing by fragmentation. The sex organs are absent, but plasmogamy is brought about by fusion of two vegetative or somatic cells. Okay, over here it's not gametes, it is by fusion of two somatic, meaning normal body cells undergo fusion, undergo plasmogamy, and these are of course not from the same fungi organism. It is from two different genotypes, but it is the somatic cells. Okay, it is important that it is the somatic cells which undergo plasmogamy in Basidiomycetes. The resultant structure is a dikaryotic, right, which ultimately gives rise to basidium. We have already seen over there that dikaryon stage is seen in Ascomycetes and in Basidiomycetes. The karyogamy and meiosis takes place in the basidium, which results in production of four basidiospores, and these all are basically terms related to the fruiting bodies. Right? Again, fruiting bodies are only seen in Ascomycetes and Basidiomycetes. Now the basidiospores over here are exogenously produced on the basidium. The basidia are arranged in fruiting bodies, yes, called the basidiocarps, yes, right? And the examples are Agaricus, Ustilago, Puccinia. Agaricus is the common mushroom, Ustilago causes smut, and Puccinia causes rust. Okay, and even for this one, I'll be posting the trick. Next, we have Deuteromycetes, which is the last class of fungi of this chapter, and they are also called imperfect fungi. Okay, they are called imperfect fungi because only the asexual or vegetative phases of these fungi are yet known. The sexual forms of these fungi were discovered, but they were later moved into classes they rightly belong to. So, because of that, this class is called imperfect fungi. It is also possible that the asexual and vegetative stage have been given one name and placed under Deuteromycetes, and the sexual stage has been placed in another class. So it is such a confusing class placed separately. Okay. And later, when the linkages were established, the fungi were correctly identified and moved out of Deuteromycetes. So such a sad story, right? So basically, whatever comes into Deuteromycetes, they later realize that this is not part of Deuteromycetes and they are moved into their appropriate classes. So once the perfect sexual stages of members of Deuteromycetes were discovered, they were often moved to Ascomycetes and Basidiomycetes. Okay, over here there's not much of theory to be studied, but yes, it is an imperfect fungi. That's the only term we have come across right now. The Deuteromycetes reproduce by asexual spores called conidia. The mycelium is septate and branched. Okay, as we know, only Phycomycetes is not is having the aseptate mycelium. Some members are saprophytes or parasites, while a large number of them are decomposers of litter and help in mineral cycling. So over here it's important these are decomposers of litter, not decomposers of dung. So Deuteromycetes are not coprophilous. It is Ascomycetes which is coprophilous. It is not that Deuteromycetes are coprophilous. Examples are Alternaria, Colitotrichum and Trichoderma, for which I'll be posting the trick. Okay, right guys. So I hope Phycomycetes, Ascomycetes and all were clear. And yes, this is Mucor, which is basically Phycomycetes, and this is the diagram for Ascomycetes, and which is basically Aspergillus, and this is Agaricus, the common mushroom. So alright guys, that's the end of the video. If you do like this video, please do subscribe to my channel. Please share this video to all your friends. And if you do like this video, press the like button. And if you don't like this video, press the dislike button as well. So please do give your suggestions in the comment section below. So okay guys, goodbye.